Hello and welcome to the Bears and Lions podcast. This is the podcast where we challenge our present by viewing our past. I'm a firm believer that our greatest future lies within the correct view of our past. Because when you actually look at it, you're probably going to see that in your past, you probably had some issues with self-worth or even self-doubt. But most likely you were focused on yourself and possibly even self-addicted, which I didn't realize was a thing until recently when I was reviewing my old journal entries from years ago. So this is a quick but crazy conversation, and I really hope you enjoy. We're just going to jump into it really quick because this is going to be a short conversation, but an important one. We're talking about self-addiction or addiction to oneself. It's actually called ontological addiction theory, or OAT. And I hope that you'll go with me here just because this is an important conversation and I want to share about it. So OAT, I'm going to read this for you. OAT is a novel metaphysical model of psychopathology, and it posits that human beings are prone to forming implausible beliefs concerning the way they think they exist, and that these beliefs can become addictive, leading to functional impairments and mental illnesses. Now, the reason why I want to share this is because I've been going through some of my old journals from like a decade and a half ago, and I realized this is exactly what I went to therapy for, and this is the stuff that I went through. Is I used to have this perception of, it was a belief of what I perceived everyone else viewed me or perceived me as. I thought I needed to control the way I thought I existed in the world so that it would match what I thought others would perceive me as, which is very confusing, right? It's the difference between talking the talk and walking the walk, right? So I was so worried about what everybody else thought about me that I was only focused on the idea of how I existed in this world rather than actually existing in this world. So I would ignore the things that I enjoyed. I would ignore the things that brought me joy, and I would ignore the portions of myself that actually existed in this world. And I would lie to myself and say, oh, no. This is how I'm actually existing. I'm doing this. So that other people, because I thought other people were listening to me and cared, I would say, I'm doing this, but I actually was doing this. So I would contradict myself in the way that I lived all the time. And I'm seeing this now because social media is so vast and so large. And you tell me, this sounds exactly like social media, right? Between AI and virtual reality and the fact that we have a computer in our hands at all times, we can have self-gratification and instant gratification no matter what. We spend more time on the perception of who we actually are versus actually living the life that we want and allowing people to perceive us however they perceive us, right? We're so focused on being perceived as somebody on social media that we will alter our own thought process or view of, oh yeah, it's a great day. No, it was actually a crap day, but we post on social media. It's a great day. We changed our perception, which is why I think this is an important conversation. And I want to be very clear. I am not talking about innate human value. Somebody's going to hear this and they're going to say self-worth. So you're saying people don't have self-worth? No, absolutely. Every human is beautifully and wonderfully made, and I believe that they have value. However, I am talking about the other side, the emotional self-value, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth ideology, right? How you view it. Because so many people are looking external saying, you need to give me self-worth. You need to tell me I'm valuable in order for me to feel valuable, rather than actually becoming valuable so that you yourself say, no, I've done this, this, and this. I know I'm valuable. I've put in work here. I've tried here. I've done this. A lot of people are still waiting for other people to tell them that they are of value when everybody has already told them. They're just not listening to it. It's like it's a compliment, right? Have you ever complimented somebody and had them like basically spit back in your face? Even though you were trying to be kind, they were like, da, 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 da. You're beautiful. Nah, shut up. Like, you do it enough times. Like, the first time it's like, whatever. But if you do it, and every single time you tell your wife or your husband that you're handsome or you're beautiful, and every single time, shut up. Eventually, they're going to be trained not even to say it because they're just going to be shunned. And then eventually people are trained out of the good mentalities. I had a coworker of mine recently got a haircut. It was this cool fade, and it fit his face. He had awesome beard lines and everything. And I was like, bro, fire haircut. And he's like, I hate it. It's like, okay. And then another one of our coworkers said the same thing. Bro, great haircut. From us, we're on the outside. We think that the haircut looks great. And he's like, thanks, but I hate it. It's like, look, that's an internal thing. We can compliment all you want, but if you're not going to accept the compliment, I'm not going to compliment you anymore. Like, I get it. Like, if you want your hair to look a certain way, awesome. That's great. You need to make sure that your hair looks the way that you want it to look. This is coming from a bald guy. But it's just one of those things where if you've ever experienced that, you recognize this is exactly what happens when it comes to self-worth and self-value or self-confidence, right? You will lack it, and people can tell you, you are valuable, you are valuable, you are valuable. And you'll say, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. Shut up. It's like brushing off a compliment. And what happens is so many people on the internet, they post on social media, right? And they get met with 5 great comments. You look beautiful. You're awesome. You're so stellar. You're incredible. But then they're also met with 50 comments of, why does your hair look like that? Your eyebrows are big. Your ears are small. What's going on with your lips? Why is your teeth crooked? Like, you'll be met with all these different things. And so it's so hard to determine where the value comes from. And if you're waiting for other people to provide you that value, and if you're waiting for other people to tell you, yes, you are valuable, guess what? Other people have probably already said it and you just weren't hearing them or weren't listening. And if they get on a megaphone and say, you are of value, I can promise you, you still won't hear it because it's you that's telling it to you. You're waking up every day and you're saying, I'm not valuable, because you don't feel valuable. And one of the reasons why I don't think you feel valuable is because you probably haven't been doing the things that you know you should be doing. That's what I went through on my journal writings. And I have journal writings out the wazoo for 3-4 years of my life where I went through this, where I wasn't doing the things I knew I should be doing, whether it was eating healthy, exercising, dieting, or treating people with kindness. I was an arrogant jerk at times who would step on people to get whatever I needed. I had no problem with putting people down, and I knew I shouldn't have been doing those things. And then I would wake up and I'd say, you're a terrible person. And I believed it because I knew I was a terrible person. I knew it deep down. And no matter how many people said, you are of value, yeah, whatever, because I know I'm not. And I think that there's this lack of understanding that humans, you are of value. Stop thinking you're not. And instead of focusing on how valuable you are, start focusing on how to create value, how to build value. This world is incredible in the fact that we literally can learn languages on our phones. We can learn almost anything. We can ask our phone things and we're going to get a message that says the whatever question we ask, it's going to give us a answer within a minute or less. Sometimes it's like 5 seconds and it's just, oh yeah, here's the answer. We can learn so quickly. So there's things that we can do to build our value. I think some people will treat self-worth like it's a broken down house in a neighborhood, and we all talk about it, but none of us are actually buying the house and fixing it up and pouring value into it. But when somebody actually does do that, we celebrate it. Wow, look at this house. It's so beautiful. The transformation was amazing. And I think some of you don't value yourselves because you know that your life would be way better if you just knocked a couple walls down and remodeled and turned yourself into something that you valued. And then you would start hearing the people who say, you're of value. And you would say, yeah, I am. I appreciate that. You'll actually hear them because you've put in that work and you're telling yourself that same thing. And this can go for working out. It can go for dieting. It can go for weight loss. It can also go for mentality. It can go for school. It can go for job, career-wise. It can also go for I would even go for the emotional and the psychological. If you're having an issue with your mentality or a mental thought process, if you start building little by little and building that value for yourself, you start doing one right thing. You know the right thing that I'm talking about. You know the right thing to do. In fact, you probably had things come to your mind of, yeah, I know I should be doing this, but I'm not. And the reason why I know that is because I had in my journal written on multiple days, I know I should stop doing this. Or I know I am doing this and this is holding me back. And I continued doing that for a year. Even though I knew and I had it written down that I knew what was right, but I refused to do it. And that's why I want to talk to you about this. And I wanted to have this conversation because I think it is extremely important to understand that there are people who value you and there are people who are telling you that you are of value, but you cannot hear them because your own voice, your self-addiction is so loud that it's blocked out the other people. It's blocked out the community. Which brings me to this last point, is that you have to have accountability. You have to have some form of accountability. So whether it's a mantra or a family member or a loved one or a friend or a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend or a coworker that's going to keep you accountable, who's going to be that person who's going to say, hey, have you kept up with your diet? Or, hey, have you done something nice today? Yeah, have you pursued the things that you wanted to pursue? Hey, I know that you're working on your mentality. Have you written down the good things today? Have you celebrated something today? You need accountability. And there's no accountability without community. I wonder, how long would it take for a baby to walk if they were carried everywhere? They were never actually kept accountable, right? Babies can actually walk pretty quick at a younger age if they're encouraged and held accountable to do it themselves. And I think what makes it so special is that when they're encouraged correctly and they do it themselves, there's a joy on the baby's face because they're doing it themselves and they've accomplished something, but they share it with the parents or the family members or the loved ones that are there. And that's why it's so special. If you are struggling with self-worth or self-value, you need to find somebody to keep you accountable. I've seen this, and it made me sick the other day, where people were in a conference to better themselves. They were going because they knew that there was something wrong with them. They wanted to be better. And the speaker said some harsh things to keep them accountable. Hey, are you proud of this? And they said no. They were honest. It was the first step of being accountable. And then I realized this whole Instagram is actually a duet where somebody else was like, this jerk is telling them that they're not valuable. No, they're at this conference to be held accountable. People need to be held accountable so that they can grow and be pushed and keep themselves on track, because honestly, I know I need to be kept accountable. There are so many times when I'll start drifting back into that self-addiction where I'm like, oh, this is how somebody's perceiving me. And then somebody's like, hey, how you doing? I'm, oh, yeah. Hey, you still going to the gym? Yeah. March was a rough month for me. I didn't go to the gym once. And I remember my coworkers were like, oh, you still going to the gym? And I just had to be honest. Thank you for keeping me accountable. No, I have not. But I got back in the gym. So it's important to have a healthy mentality. Now, I know that if you've made it this far, you're probably like, wow, that was wild. It's true. I'm not saying that all self-worth is based on the lack thereof of communication, or social media is the cause of all self-worth issues. I'm not, but it amplifies it. And I really want people to be challenged in the fact that during the process of what I've gone through, I had to understand that there are always going to be people who are going to say things and I'm not going to hear it because my inner voice is saying something else. And what I've trained and worked very hard for is to get my inner voice to be able to acknowledge and respond correctly. So if somebody says, hey, you're bald, and they make fun of me, yeah, I am bald, because I'm not offended by that anymore. It's just who I am. My inner voice and my inner self, my self-worth is not in whether I'm bald or not. It's the fact that I'm doing hard things and I know it, and I'm putting in work, and I'm practicing great ethics, and I'm trying to be a good person, and I'm trying to live my life in a moral way and do things the very best I absolutely can. And that's the self-worth, is the fact that no matter what I do, it's wrapped up in my belief in Christ and not myself. Where prior, I would be so focused on me that if you'd said, you're bald, it would have crushed me. It would absolutely crush me. That's going to do it for this conversation. I know it was probably more of me ranting than anything, but honestly, that's what these conversations are for sometimes. I was going through this stuff. I was like, man, I can't believe that I was this arrogant. I can't believe that I went through this. And then, of course, I looked up the OAT and was like, oh, yeah. I was addicted to myself. So hopefully, if you are addicted to yourself, you'll be challenged by this. You'll start small. Do some things, whether it's working out or hard things or studying or learning something or challenging yourself or finding a friend to be accountable with, and just work on the little things at a time to build up that voice that allows you to acknowledge and say, hey, I know I'm of value. Thank you for telling me. I can hear you now. That's going to do it, though. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your week. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.